In a previous chapter 2 lesson, we set up our getEndpoint to take in pagination parameters, but we didn't actually implement them, especially within the context of Mongoose. Let's take a look at how we can apply limit and offset to our coffee service final method and retrieve that selection of coffees from the database. First, let's generate a class for our pagination query DDO. We haven't done it before because the pagination query parameter we used was merely for demonstration purposes. So using the CLI, let's create it by entering nest.g class common/ddo/pagination-query.ddo-node-spec. Note that we generate this class in a new directory named common, where we can keep things that are not tied to any specific domain and can be reused by multiple controllers. Let's open up this new pagination query DDO and set two properties, limit and offset, both which are of type number. Now let's add a few decorators to both of these properties, first being the type decorator, which comes from the class transformer package. On this line, we are making sure that the value coming in is parsed to a number. You might remember from previous lessons we said that query params are sent through the network as strings. This helps solve that automatically for us. The next decorator we'll use is this optional, which is from class validator. As the name implies, this decorator marks this property as optional, meaning that no errors will be thrown if it's missing or undefined. And lastly, we've added the isPositive decorator, also from class validator, which checks if the value is a positive number greater than 0. One thing to remember about that first type decorator we added is that we could alternatively enable the implicit type conversion on a global level, instead of manually doing this. By adding the transform options object to our validation pipe with enable implicit conversion set to true. With this option set in our validation pipe, we no longer have to explicitly specify types with the type decorator. So let's use this, remove that type decorator from our pagination DDO. Now that we have all of that in place, let's navigate to the coffees controller and give that pagination query parameter our new DDO type. Pagination query DDO in the final method signature. Then, let's make sure we are passing this pagination query argument to the coffee service final method. We'll need it for Mongoose. Let's jump into this final method in our coffee service and update the input arguments there as well. Great! So we are using real DDOs now, and we are passing those limit and offset values down. Now, let's update our Mongoose coffee model find method to utilize them. Mongoose allows you to chain method calls. So right after our find, we can still manipulate our query before it's actually executed. If you push dot after find, you will see that IntelliSense offers a variety of other methods we could use. But in our case, we are looking for skip and limit. Skip of course means how many items should be offset, and limit means how many items should be returned. And just like that, we've set up our real pagination with our Mongo database. So let's open up Insomnia and test this out, and see if it really works. Let's call our coffees getEndpoint, but this time let's make sure we pass in some query parameters. First, let's pass in limit1 in our URL query. This should only return one result if everything goes well. Let's push send and try it out. Great, it worked! We received just one coffee back from our database. Now let's remove limit1 and try offset1 instead, and push send again. Just like that, we skipped that first coffee we just saw and got all the rest back from the database.